Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. For this week's video, I decided to replicate this agate slice. This is a genuine agate slice. And I wanted to do something that really resembled the original, but using acrylic paints. Because I'm always using mica and I thought, well, could I actually do this with acrylic paints? And I get asked a lot of questions. And in the past I have done, but then ever since I discovered mica, I felt like that was really the way to go. But now I'm convinced that if you want a more natural look, that acrylic paints are actually the way to go. So what I'm doing here is I'm using just three colours. I'm using burnt umber, I'm using black and some white. And I'm creating three tones of beige. So a kind of dark beige, a white beige, and a kind of a darker colour. And I'm just going to mix a tiny bit into some resin. And really, you really don't need very much. It's quite dense and quite opaque. So that's the kind of mid-tone colour. And I'm just adding a little white. And this will be for the middle part and for the rims that I'll do in the middle. So I'm taking some more burnt umber with a little black. And it's really easy to mix these paints. They're especially sort of fluid, but not too fluid. They're almost in between, like a medium viscosity. And to get that sort of colour, I just keep adding the white until I get a lovely beige. And just keep adding your paints, and those tubes are really great because they kind of just squeeze out and you can just put the lid back on. You don't actually need to put any paint on a tray or an artist's palette. And that's kind of like a grey beige. And you can see I really only put a little there. You don't need very much when it comes to acrylics. I find you need more with mica, but with acrylics you can get away with just a little bit. So if you're interested in this template, if you look down in the description box below, I've taken the trouble to create a PDF template for you which you can print out. Then you can use some silicone caulk and kind of trace around it. I'm just going to place these colours. I'm not trying to replicate the original exactly because, well, that wouldn't be very creative on my part. I'm just taking inspiration from it. So I'm going to use these kind of a ring. I'm going to go around in a ring form. And the reason I'm doing this is because I do want some of that white that you can see that I'm placing down now. I want some of it to stay without me moving it around too much. And it's just a question of placing down one after the other until I get the colour combination that I like. And you can see there in the middle there is a tiny little cluster which came from the original. But obviously I don't necessarily want that to be covered. So I'm going to try and keep that middle bit a little translucent, a little transparent, by adding just clear resin. And you'll see towards the end of this process I actually add just a little bit of glitter, and it gives it that kind of sparkly shine that you get on drusies. That's my phone, I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to add that darker beigey grey just to the outside rim. So I do want there to be some contrast between the other two shades. And I'm just going to keep going until I feel like it's done. Just sapping it with the blowtorch just to get rid of some bubbles as I go along. And there I'm adding clear. My hand's in the way, but I'm adding clear just to the centre. And I don't want it to do that normal effect that I do where it pushes it all out and in, so I put it in very slowly and only a little. And the thing with resin is it just does its own thing after a while. Gravity kind of pulls it towards the middle naturally, but I don't really want it to merge too much together. And I want that white to kind of do its thing, and it does do some really lovely effects afterwards. And the best thing with these kind of effects is not to overdo them and not to overuse the heat gun, because then you'll lose them. So just a little more shot of clear, just so that middle bit stays clear. And then there you go, you can see it all coming into the middle. And there it is, it's slowly settling down, and eventually it will stop moving. And see, I can tell from the hyperlapse that it's stopped, but you can't always tell in real life. So I'm basically going to stop it here, and I am going to let it dry. Here's a little close-up shot of it as I'm letting it dry, and you can tell this is about 10 minutes later, and it's already done these really, really gorgeous effects with the white and the beige together. And as I did say, I added a little glitter to the center, and I just kind of pushed it down with a stick, so I didn't add it to the resin in the beginning. Okay, so here it is the next day, and I think it looks really lovely. I love the way it's dried. It's got all these great effects in it. They look really, really like a real stone. And in the middle there, I just added a tiny bit of snow white glitter, just there in the middle. And I'm going to be doing a top coat now. So I've mixed up some premium heat resist resin, and let's pour some in. Start from the middle. And then just stop there for the moment. And just sort of flow it around. I can see that's not going to be quite enough. But let's get them into the corner first. And then that way I know how much more to pour in. Okay, so let's put some more. And resin is normally very good at self-leveling, so this is just to make sure that all the sides are touched and that there's no patches, such as over here. There's a little patch there. So let's get that filled in. There. And then we can lay it down. I can then torch the rest of it, get rid of all the bubbles. I'm just going to fill that space there a bit. And with these molds I can do this. They don't stick, so you don't in any case want to leave it in there too long, but and then just go around and see if there's any sort of little bits that have stuck to the underneath, any bits of dust, anything that's been in the air. Clean it off and then leave it to cure for another 24 hours, maybe a bit longer if you wanted the full cure, and just check the manufacturer's instructions. So here it is after 24 hours, and I think it looks lovely. It really resembles the original stone. And I'm going to start gilding along the edges and just a little thin rim on the top. And I've chosen rose gold. I thought it went really well with the colour combinations, and also because I love rose gold. I will be eventually adding some feet to this. I think it just helps give it some more dimension and lift it up off the table. And then you can basically use it for whatever you like. You can add some little canapes on it, you can put some cupcakes on it, you could even put a teapot on it, because I've used the premium heat resist. So this is it finished, and I've put the feet on, they're all dried. And I just wanted to show you the final result. I think it looks really lovely. I love that rose gold finish on it. Just picking it up for you. All the way around, it looks really great. So I thought I was finished with this particular piece, and then I had an idea about creating a candle holder out of it. And to do that, I've used this mold. I've used it before, I think in my previous video. And what I did was I added a little bit of black and a little bit of brown alcohol ink, just a touch, to make a sort of a match with the colour of the actual agate slice. And what I've done is taken it out of the mold 12 hours after filling up the mold, so that it's still pliable, and I molded it around a little glass tea light holder. So you can kind of shape this and then just put a bit of tape to hold it into place, and then leave it around another 12 hours, so for a full cure. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my UV resin and just gather it together and glue it together into sort of a wreath form, and you'll see that in a moment. So this is an example of one that I did previously. It's a very, very pale lilac colour. It's in exactly the same mould, and I've gilded it with gold around the edges, and this will just give you an idea of how it can look. So that's kind of a wreath shape. It goes around the same form as the agate slice, and in this particular case I've used some alcohol ink in purple, very, very light purple, just a little touch inside, you don't need much. And I've moulded it around and I've let it dry, and in this particular case I've actually used a bigger candle holder, so you can use different sizes of candles. You can see that the one that I'm going to do now is a regular size candle holder, whereas the purple one is one of the larger ones. So to do this, I've taken a piece of acetate paper, I've put it underneath the candle holder and on top of the agate slice, and I'm doing this so that I can actually form it in that sort of oblong kind of oval shape. And it's just a question of putting some UV resin underneath, grouping it together, and curing it under the lamp for about 2 minutes each time. And normally the acetate paper will just peel off the back. If it doesn't, turn it around and do it for 1 more minute under the lamp, so that it can penetrate the underneath part of the resin. And you keep doing this, and if you need to, you can clip off any excess bits because it's still slightly pliable. And you keep going around and forming a wreath shape until it's all done. Just keep moving that same piece of paper around. So I didn't have a huge piece of acetate film, but if you do, you can just use one piece underneath. And sometimes you may need to put some UV resin on the sides of the crystals so that the two side crystals stick together. And there's the wreath. I've peeled off the plastic, and I just think that's absolutely beautiful, really sparkly. And if you wanted, you could stick it straight onto your agate slice. But if you wanted a 2-in-1 piece of resin art, you could just leave it loose and place the candle holder in the middle. And when necessary, you can remove that crystal wreath and use it as a plate, a little presentation plate, etc. Or why not a little jewellery trinket dish? I mean, your imagination can go anywhere. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, picked up a few tips and a few tricks, and maybe will replicate this yourself at some point.
I wish you all a great week. Take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!